Hey everybody, welcome back to LED Live, where we are going to expose some darkness. Actually, today we're probably not going to expose some darkness because we're going to talk about the light.
That's right.
Today, I've got some very important guests today. Both are my brothers, and we're going to talk about ministry, which they're all involved in. Do you have a ministry?
Find out on this episode of LED Live.
All right, guys, I'm excited to have Tommy back because Tommy, for many of you that don't know, was actually one of the OGs that started Little Light with us. I used to work in Hollywood with my brother Thom here, and he's got a passion. You know, he's very talented with a video camera. He used to make our stuff look amazing, but there's something that he really felt called to do. We're gonna get into that. And Brock as well, Brock being my younger brother, very excited to hear about the ministry that you've got going on, and Mikey as well. For those of you that don't know, Mikey doesn't sleep at night. He actually has about 15 different ministries going on. Right. But we'll hear from you a little bit more. So today we want to talk about ministry opportunities, because I believe that as the world is coming apart, right, everybody needs to be involved in ministry. And a lot of people contact our ministry and they say, hey, I don't have a video camera and I don't know what to do. But there's a lot of things that you can do within your means or within your local church, or just using your passion. Mm-hmm. But how do we get to that point? Mm-hmm. Listen to this verse, Luke 21, verse 28. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Mm. Amen. So what do you think this verse is saying?
It's a powerful verse. We see the world around us falling apart at the seams. And this verse gives incredible hope, because Jesus is encouraging us to actually look up, like not to focus on the negativity, on all the crazy stuff that's going on, that people are depressed and struggling with these things, but actually to look up, like our redemption draws nigh. That's exciting to me.
Yeah. When you look around the world, I mean, it does appear to be coming apart. We are at 2020, which is like crazy. Yeah. I mean, you remember watching movies when we were kids, going like, seeing these futuristic 2020 on there, and it was like always, people flying around in cars. But we're actually here, which is amazing. And you can see the world coming apart. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at that.
No, I mean, I was just hearing on NPR this last year that there's nearly 1 million species that are on the endangered, that are about to go extinct. Wow. And you think about that, 1 million species. And that was just talking about animals, not even talking about the millions and millions of plant species that we've lost.
Yeah.
This thing is unraveling at an unprecedented rate.
I mean, you see in the news all the time, massive quantities of birds dropping off, and just out of nowhere, bam, all dead, or fish washing up on the ocean. I mean, you can see the effects that this sin has had on this world, and it's getting worse and worse. So tell us a little bit about what you got going on. What's it called?
So we have a ministry called the Gideon Rescue Company. And it's taken from the story in the Bible about Gideon, how he was a light in a dark place. It's like he had trumpets, he had pitchers, and he was outnumbered, but God used a small amount of men who were dedicated to bring about an incredible victory. And we see this same calling in what it is that we do, because we see natural disasters increasing all around us. And so therefore we feel that it's an opportunity to reach people like never before. And we have this one concept called the spiritual golden hour. And it's really incredible. Like from the time a disaster or crisis happens, it doesn't even have to be a natural disaster. It could be like a death of a friend. It could be a financial crisis that somebody's going through. But from the time that a crisis happens, the clock starts ticking, where people all of a sudden take stock of their situation. They say, well, what is life really all about? Like, where are we headed? Where are we going? The big questions of life. And it's a critical moment. Like, this is why in the physical world we have fast helicopters, we have fast ambulances, because we get to people quickly so that we can hopefully get them to definitive care quickly. And it's no different in the spiritual realm, that when a disaster happens, you actually want to get to people quickly spiritually so that you can get them to definitive care, which of course we believe definitive care being the Word of God.
Right. You know, it's interesting, when 9/11 happened, churches like literally were bursting at the seams. I mean, everybody flowed into a church. They saw those buildings coming down and they're just like, whoa, reevaluate life. Where's my priorities? And all of a sudden people started showing up at churches.
Right.
So how did you get into this Gideon Rescue? What do you do for a living?
Well, by trade, I work as a paramedic and as a nurse. And so different avenues there. I've worked in the ER, I've worked on the helicopter. But those are all great areas too to reach people. You know, it's amazing that just in the simple act of helping somebody through a difficult time opens the door. You know, I carry glow tracks, like little tiny tracks on Bible topics, and you know, somebody will be struggling with, it doesn't even matter what it is that they're struggling with. If the time and the appropriate situation arises, I can hand them a glow track, and they're just like so thankful. They're just like, oh man, thank you so much. You know, or even just praying with somebody. Some act of praying with somebody, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, when you've got a downed person in a rescue vehicle, like a paramedic ambulance or something like this, right? You have a captive audience.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
they're yours
Absolutely.
for that half-hour ride or whatever you got. So you know.
Yeah.
So do you pray with patients or what?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really amazing. Where I'm working now in the ER, it's a Christian hospital, so they actually promote ministry. They actually promote praying with people. So that's really neat to have on that aspect. You know, I have that kind of backup, is that they like to see that. So.
I heard something actually that was really interesting, that when somebody is ill or has a terminal illness or a sickness or something, that if they exude thankfulness or compassion, was it?
Gratitude.
Gratitude, that it actually totally increases your ability to heal.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. They've done scientific studies on gratitude, and have proven that patients who are more grateful recover faster, have faster healing times.
So you know, it
Just being grateful.
isn't just the work that you're doing, you know, patching somebody if they're bleeding or whatever like that, but there's actually like a spiritual component that really helps heal somebody as well. And obviously that ties into what Gideon Rescue does, right?
Right. And that's the point, is that most ailments, even physical ailments, stem from a spiritual foundation. And it's really fascinating. People, you know, that's at the heart of what people really struggle with, usually is a spiritual ailment. And Jesus recognized this. You know, he would physically heal someone for the purpose of spiritually reaching someone. You know, he was teaching, he was preaching, he was healing. It was those three combinations that opened the door. In fact, he did most of his healing more than he did preaching. You know, like we have a few instances where we see his sermons and his parables, but the majority of his work was actually medical missionary.
You actually see that as one of his first lines of attack, rather than just like, hey, do you know what the Bible says about this?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he was actually just helping people.
Absolutely.
And you know, making them eased in a discomforting world. So tell me a little bit about Gideon Rescue. Like, what are some of the activities that your ministry has done?
Well, we've been blessed to respond to all sorts of disasters, and God has blessed us with incredible resources. We are the least of the least, the fewest of the few, but in the same fashion that God used less than 1% of Gideon's original fighting force, God has also blessed us in that same capacity with untold resources to accomplish the mission. I mean, he's given us planes that we don't own, that we don't maintain, that we don't pay for. I mean, these are not just simple planes. These are multi-million-dollar planes. You know, a recent acquisition was a $5 million aircraft. You know, we don't own it, we don't pay for it, but, you know, God has seen fit to give it to us to use whenever we need to. It's on call, ready to go, you know, personal Gideon Rescue pilot, check, you know. So we wouldn't have time to tell all the incredible miracle stories that God is doing, but we have a boat, we have a rescue boat that our church stepped out in faith to purchase, which this is really exciting. It's one of the best tools in the water environments for flood rescue and things. And so these are all tools. They open doors. Like when you show up to a disaster scene and you have physical tools to help people, then man, like doors just open up like you wouldn't believe. That's awesome. But you know, glow tracks, like literature, the messages that we have from the Bible are one of our greatest tools that we've found that open up doors. I mean, it's incredible. We've been on the scene. We were at Hurricane Dorian this last fall, and people were literally turning down food and water, saying, "No, I want the book in your hand. No, I want the tract in your hand." I mean, this is how hungry people are. I mean, they've been through a lot. They've suffered a lot. But then again, where's that foundation? You know, it's like you can go weeks without food, days without water, you know, minutes without air, but you can't live a moment without hope.
That's right.
So it's like, what do you give people? Like, what do they need? They need hope.
And that's something simple anybody can do. Nobody has to be
Anybody.
a preacher.
No.
You know, and there might be somebody who's just really introverted and they just, man, I just cannot talk to somebody about spiritual things. If they bought a pack of those, and I've heard stories where somebody laid it on a trash can at a gas station and they find out like months later somebody calls them up because they left their number in there and like, just, man, I found this on the edge of the trash can right at the right time. Like, you have no idea. You could change somebody's entire world, you know, if you just left that one little thing. It's something easy you can do, you know. Everybody can do it.
And that's incredible. Like when we were there, and this is what was heartbreaking, so we had thousands of people pouring through our area, through our hands to say, and we didn't have enough hands. We didn't have enough literature. Like if all you were there to do was to pray with somebody or to offer them a glow track, I mean, we could have made such an incredible impact, and we had 4 guys.
You almost need like a tactical gear jacket, you know, with like, like 15 pockets on it, and like all the glow tracks, you know, like.
Yeah.
Do you work with other rescue teams and ministries and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we team up with whoever is willing to team up with us.
Well, I had a question because I seen this meme one time on the internet. It really just kind of bothered me. It was like, it's from an atheist, and he posted it, and it showed a Christians holding hands in a circle, praying, and it said, "This is how Christians respond to like natural disasters and stuff." And I was just like, "Are you kidding me?" Like I had to respond because I looked up like who are the first responders, who are hospitals, like all these things are run by Christians, people who care, people whose lives have been transformed by Jesus, care about other people. Do you find that the majority of rescue work like you do are run by Christians, or?
There is a huge number. I mean, you know, you look at like World Vision, they were there in the Bahamas. They had a helicopter and some other things that they were running. And so there's very physical aspects that these ministries do. I mean, we show up with a physical boat, you know, to pull people from the water. We didn't use it in that particular rescue response, but that's the point, is that when you physically reach somebody, you then have an avenue to spiritually minister to somebody. So yeah, I mean, I would say there's a huge number of Christian organizations and groups that give of their time, their talent, in an effort to physically reach people.
Yeah.
But what we see less and less of, and this is where we feel that this is the gap, is that not a lot of groups are really focusing on the spiritual aspect, especially in the critical phases. Yeah. You know, later on when things stabilize, you know, down the road, then maybe, you know, churches will come together and kind of try to do some things. But in the acute phase, that's when it's most important.
Yeah, there's like a window of opportunity because people, once they get back on their feet, they kind of just forget. Like, I mean, I've been in some crazy incidences where I almost like drowned and everything. And like for days afterwards, I was like, I could have died. And now it's just like, oh, that was a long time ago. I barely remember it. But during that little window of opportunity, you can really reach somebody. And you might miss that opportunity if you don't take advantage of it.
Right, and that's exactly what we see. You know, I mean, we had a report of a guy who showed up at the airport there where we were at in the Bahamas, and he dropped his whole family off. And then after he dropped his family off, he pulled out a gun and shot himself. You know, and that is, I mean,
because he
like,
lost everything,
he
probably
lost
just
everything.
no hope.
No hope. So it's like, so in that instance, like, is food important for that family? Absolutely. Is water important for that family? Absolutely. Is pulling those people from the flood important? Absolutely. But there's a lot of teams that do those things, those physical things, but then there's not a lot of teams that will offer hope.
Yeah.
And that's the most important piece of the entire puzzle.
Yeah, giving hope to that person where he's still alive with his family is very important, more important.
You know, this ministry was basically born in Paradise, California, where all the fires were, and it's really been interesting because that's where I grew up. You know, I went and visited the town this last year, and there's just nothing left of it. And that was the one thing, is it's like people were leaving that situation with just no hope. Everything is gone. Everything is burnt. I don't want to start over. They're old, you know, and it's like, you know, what a discouraging thing. But when you have this other thing to look forward to, like you're just like, oh wow, this literally isn't the end. I mean, this can make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then that person goes and shares. It's like wildfire.
Right.
No pun intended, but yeah, like when you share and change somebody's life, they get a fire within them and they want to share. And man, it's just crazy to see it just.
That's right. That's right. So Brock, what kind of people do you work with? I mean, what, you know, Gideon Rescue, what are you like teaming up with? Are you guys all like medical personnel? Are you guys all like super trained in whitewater rescue and?
No, there's a couple of us that have some specialized skills and training, you know, paramedic, nurse, EMT. But beyond that, I mean, we've got a guy that works on our team. He's like a mortgage broker, like that's what he does. Like, and he just sells houses. But he's all excited about this ministry. We got another guy that used to work in a warehouse. He worked for like Dollar General, Dollar Tree. I can't remember which one. And he got excited about it. And he's a new convert to Christianity, and so he's been really excited about literature. And so he'll go to like a truck stop. He'll be handing like semi-truckers just literature. So when he found out about our ministry and the opportunity to go and do that in a disaster scene, he was just like, oh, I'm in. And he has no skills whatsoever. Like he's even afraid of water. Like he doesn't like water.
Wow. So once they got in there and experienced what this was like, then they keep coming back with you?
Yeah. I mean, it's a small group. Like I said, most of the time our responses are like 3-4 guys at the most. We don't have huge teams. It would be nice to have a bigger team, but we just haven't had that opportunity to have
right
a bigger
So
team.
if somebody wanted to join your team, what would you tell them? Like if somebody out there is watching?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, visit our website. We got a way that you can go to, gettingrescue.org. You can type in a little contact submission form there. And then we take it case by case. We send you information. And then it's really we have no requirements as far as to join, except to realize what it is that you're getting into. Like these are high octane environments. This is a stressful environment. And so the thing that we found to bring the most success is you have to have a solid relationship with God. And if your relationship with God is solid, then you can then serve in some of these crazy environments and be a light and a witness.
Right.
And so that's really the only requirement that we put on people, but it's not something we can measure.
Does location matter? I mean, do you go to other places all over?
All over, United States, internationally, wherever the Lord will take us. I mean, so far He's given us some aircraft here in the U.S., so we can kind of reach anywhere in the U.S. right now.
You live in California, and if there's a disaster like in Tennessee, you could call somebody in Georgia and they can meet up with you or something?
Well, yeah, I mean, and this is what's so cool is that because we do this all in faith and we don't have the game plan or the battle plan laid out, just like Gideon, it's like God then, it's like as you step forward in faith, you're like, you know what, I'm going to do this. Then God starts opening up the doors. Like He clears schedules, He finds transportation. I mean, all these things come together, even though we don't have an extensive network to do this. Like I can't tell somebody who's wanting to join, be like, yeah, I'm going to fly you from California to where we're at in the disaster zone. Like we don't have that capability per se, but God has that capability and He's never disappointed us. So where if people step forward in faith, man, the Lord hooks it up.
And when that disaster happens, somehow it works out and everybody gets to the location and you guys are able to be really effective boots on the ground.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome. Mikey's got a little ministry. Tell me a little bit about your ministry.
So I have a YouTube channel called Truth to the Youth, and I have a passion to reach the youth, the younger generation. When my parents raised me up in church, so I was there every week, and when I got to age, I accepted Christ, and as a young kid, I was going to these youth groups, and I was on fire. But then, when I reached age 12 and 13, I started having these real skeptical, tough questions, and so I'd ask pastors, and I look back on, I really hammered them. I was kind of like, because I really had these skeptical questions, and it would end up being where the pastor, whoever I was talking to, would just be like, "There's some things we just won't know till we get to heaven," and that just like really, added more skepticism to my life. So I started seeking truth in other areas. I was like, how come we can't play with a Ouija board and contact spirits from the other side that might have information for us? Nobody told me this is why you shouldn't do it. I have the answer. It's in the Bible, So my desire is to seek answers for really tough questions, for skeptical mindsets of the youth of this day and age, truth to the youth. And if I don't have the answer, then my mission is to search it out. I love to be stumped because it makes me dig deeper. But I have a lot of interaction online on social media with atheists and agnostics. I get in a lot of debates.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of a natural debater. And, I often respond to our comments on this YouTube channel that are the haters, and I try to give them logical explanations for what we believe and stuff.
And you know what's awesome about what he does? Because I too read the comments, and I often see you responding to people. And a lot of times, even if they dislike this topic, I mean, they're real negative, like, you guys are crazy, da, 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 da. And usually you would maybe skip over those comments because you're like, okay, this person's not really seeking truth. But I've seen Mikey a lot engage with these people, go back and forth, hand them some truth, and then it's like all of a sudden these people are like friends with you down the road and like accepting of the truth, which they never would have if you didn't spend the time to sit there and communicate with them.
That's right, man. I've had dialogues that last days on social media, and finally, like, a Christian friend of mine will literally private message me and be like, dude, stop casting your pearls among swine, dust your feet off. And I'm like, no, man, if somebody would have done that to me, where would I be right now?
Right.
I was like, you know, telling Christians that they were dumb for believing this stuff, and I was going down the road of witchcraft and all this stuff. And if it was not for people continuing to pursue me, you know, my cousin was the one that said, man, you just read the Bible, just give it a chance, man. Like, it's changed my life. And I've talked with some of these people over long periods of time. Sometimes it takes a long time, but eventually when they get to a point in their life, something happens, something devastating, even if it's just like a breakup, a heartbreak, those people come to me.
Right.
They hit me up in a private message and be like, and their heart's just open in a different way. But it's because, like you said, I was willing to sit there and talk with them and keep talking. So I like making videos, tough topics, doctrinal things, and prophecy and things like that. I don't spend a lot of time on that aspect because I work here and I love doing the videos here. But a lot of my ministry is just on social media, and I can do
just
it from
communicating with people. I mean, dude, everybody has social media. That is one ministry that we don't even realize it is a ministry.
Right.
I mean, you know, get involved and answer some questions, especially if you're a Christian and you guys understand certain biblical truths. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are generally like unaware of some of these simple, basic concepts. And it can be as simple as just, you know, engage with them and sit and chat with people.
Dude, I have so many testimonies. I'm always like sharing them with Scotty because I just feel like I can connect with him, show him, and he'll get excited the same way. And I'll be like, look, dude, this guy like made this video and he was talking about this topic, and I showed him, hey, read these verses, and now all of a sudden he sees like the truth about this topic, and now like he changed his whole ministry to sharing this truth that we understand, you know, and see that kind of stuff all the time.
And all of a sudden, it's just literally like one person at a time, one person at a time, one person at a time. That's how Jesus worked. I mean, when I think of Jesus' ministry, he was often boots on the ground, one-on-one. You know, I mean, he did give big presentations to big amounts of people, but there's a few examples of that as opposed to how many times he went to someone's house or he just communicated with them. So, you know, where people think like, I don't have a big ministry. I'm not that ministry front man. Yeah, but you got friends, you got family members that don't know about God. You got, you know, people within your short distance, easy, that you can just start sharing with them. And
I just met a guy, I don't know where you're going with that, but I just met a guy, he actually left a comment on our video and he said, hey, check out my video link. And, you know, sometimes we just could ignore that type of thing, but I like to check it out. So I looked, and this guy, he's from Maryland. He's a veteran. And he wasn't raised in a Christian home. His eyes were open to the signs of the times, and he accepted Christ. And he's like, man, all my family are non-believers. He's got an older brother, younger sister, and his parents even. So he made a video. And in the video, he tried to put all the evidences that prove the Bible, logical stuff that people want to know. You know, these people think we believe in fairy tales, but there's evidence, historical, archaeological evidence, and that's what he did. He started out archaeological evidence for stuff like Sodom and Gomorrah, finding sulfur balls, and it looks like in the mountains there's actually man-made places where people used to live, and now it's just like wasteland. And then he'd show signs of the times and say, look, the Bible predicted we'd see wars, rumors of wars, natural disasters, famines, all this stuff. And the whole video was just his heart being poured out, trying to reach his family. Look, I'm not crazy. I have reasons to believe this stuff. God's changed my life. You know, I used to drink and smoke and party and all this stuff. God's changed my life. I'm not that person anymore. And he's just pouring his heart out. And that's something anybody can do, you know, make a little
and he
video
put it
like
on
that.
YouTube.
And
Right?
it didn't reach his parents, but his YouTube channel's blowing up.
Yeah.
And other people are seeing it.
Yeah, so his initial intent was to reach his family, making little videos. And now I think I remember seeing a couple of these videos. All it was smashing together other videos, right, from other people.
Powerful
and a lot of it
points.
wasn't even stuff he created. He was literally just like look at this video and watch this.
Yeah.
So everyone has YouTube. You guys all have YouTube. You can literally make a playlist, or even better yet, you can just copy that URL and say, hey man, I saw this really cool video. share stuff with people. That's a ministry in and of itself.
One thing everybody has is a testimony.
Yeah.
If you just get your phone, you might not have great equipment, put a phone on a tripod, sit down and just share your story and upload it to YouTube and sit back and don't do anything to it. If you just do that, you're at least putting it out there. You have no clue who might stumble upon that video, and then you make it to heaven one day, and 1,000 years goes by, and you man, I ran across your video. You shared what God did in your life, and I watched it, and I poured my heart out to God, and I accepted Christ, and this person, all they did was made a video. And even if it only reaches one person,
That's right.
it's worth it. You helped that person to see the light and receive eternal life. It's worth it, man. If you were speaking to 1 million people and only one person accepted it, it's worth it.
We have that same perspective. I can't tell you, we have so many stories of like just a one-on-one encounter, where we've been, in a natural disaster scene. And we tell people that all the time. If God would pull out all the stops and put us on planes and send us halfway across the globe, if it was just to reach you in this moment in time, so that we could share with you hope and encouragement from God's word, then it would be worth it. And man, when people see that, they're blown away, because it's like God takes a personal interest in me that much, that he cares about me, and they want to know more.
Yeah, I love this. There's a powerful illustration, I use it all the time, where a kid was walking on the beach, and there's all these starfish washed up on the sand, and he's picking them up and throwing them out there. And this old man sees them, and he's watching them take them one at a time and throw them out there. He's like, you can't save them all. He's like, but for the ones I save, it's worth it. To them, it's worth it. That one gets to live.
That's right. That's right.
I tell these people, if you're interested, because I don't want to give a book away. I have a lot of stuff I've collected on the shelf of material that I like, and I don't want to just give it to somebody who's going to throw it away. But when people are really interested, I'm like, if you want these books, I'll send them to you free. There's no strings attached. I'm going to give them to you.
Yeah. So truthtotheyouth.com?
No. No, just go on YouTube and type truth, the number 2, THA, Truth to the Youth, and you can find some of my videos. And if you just hit me up on MySpace, Mikey Jenny, if you know somebody. I mean,
MySpace.
MySpace. Oh,
I was like, whoa.
Rerun.
Yeah, I'm trying to reach those people that...
Way back in the day.
Different generation.
Just catch me on Facebook, and yeah, man, my messenger is just full of people, literally, that I'm just talking back and forth with, that are asking me to pray for them for different things. That's and cool. What do you understand about this? I'll sometimes I'll just be talking to somebody, and then there's no interaction, and weeks later they're like, hey, I heard this, what do you think about this? And stuff like that. So it's cool.
It's awesome. All right, Thomas, I want to hear about you. Tell me a little bit about some of your ministry ventures. By the way, this is the man who started Tommy's Tonic. Yeah. If many of you have tried this, we've had Tommy's Tonic on our show before and just talked about it. It's a natural remedy. Tell us a little bit about it. How did you get involved in this?
Well, it was just a formula that I came across, actually from Dr. Schultz, and I started making it myself, sharing it with my friends and family, and it just quickly became a really just powerful little means of helping someone, just a thing as simple as a cold or a flu, sore throat. It worked so well for me. Started giving it out to everyone around me and working for them, and then finally got around to making a website and getting a label created.
Were people coming to you and be like, hey, give me that little concoction?
Yeah, they'd be calling me, what's in this? So
all the time. I mean, literally, he was making batches in his kitchen, and then he'd just walk around with bottles, and it's like, hey, you sick, man? You need some of this?
What's in Tommy's Tonic?
Yeah.
So I juice garlic, ginger, habanero pepper, which is a cayenne, white onion, and horseradish, and then that's preserved in Bragg raw apple cider vinegar. So,
dude, if my nose is stopped up and I put it in before I even swallow it, it's just open up.
That's the horseradish.
Yeah. Tommy's Tonic is really one of those products that I think when you get sick, there's not a lot of things that actually make you well. Yeah. And people swear by this stuff. I mean, you're selling this stuff around the world.
Yeah, I mean, what I've learned with it is just the power of food. I mean, look at these things God has given us: garlic, ginger, and onions, and a horseradish root, and some cayenne pepper. And I mean, it's incredible to me that you can take just some very simple ingredients and make something that really does work. That's what I hear from so many people. Man, it really works. And I mean, it's not me. You know, it's these
God made this.
Yes, it's these ingredients that are just put together from what God's given us out of the garden. You know?
Yeah, my cousins, my in-laws, my household, we use it. I mean,
Yeah.
And it started out just me getting a bottle here and wow, and then, oh, my wife, you want to try it? And then her giving it to her mom, and it just spreads. Everybody's like, this thing works.
So would you say you kind of have like a health ministry?
I think health's always been a passion for sure. I mean, you know, it's meeting people where they're at, meeting people's needs. I mean, I love that I have something always that I can, you know, if I see somebody who's suffering, I can just give it to them, you know. Typically, if someone's sick, I mean, I'm not selling it to them, you know. I just say, hey, try this, see if it works. If it works for you,
Yeah.
you know.
He's like a vegan drug dealer. You know what I mean? It's like first hit's free, dude. But they keep coming back because it works.
Yeah, I keep coming back because it works, and it's just been that little side, you know, thing to do and help people with. Food has always been a passion of mine, so that's why, you know, I love the Hippocrates quote, you know, food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. You know, that whole concept of just using powerful food ingredients and trying to come up with really nutrient dense.
No side effects.
Yeah, no side effects. You know.
I mean, what's really interesting is the world is obsessed with these kind of like food alternatives now. It's like we've been eating terrible diets for years, right? And all of a sudden now, it's like you see these documentaries starting to come out, you know, Forks Over Knives or
Game Changer.
Game Changer. Any of these that all of a sudden it's simple.
We tried it our way for a while.
Yeah, there's simple little things that you can do that actually make you healthy.
Well,
you know?
and that's what I love about it, though, when it comes to health, because really what God is showing us in terms of health, it's not complex. It's simple, but the results are profound.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's powerful, even for the gospel, right? The gospel's it's not this complex, you have to really jump through all these hoops to be saved. It's simple. Right?
Yeah.
Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, you'll be saved.
That's right.
But yet it's profound in its effect.
That's right. That's right. So tell me a little bit about what's this picture they're seeing right here. This is
picture.
This is obviously
5 years ago, I answered a call to go to Castle Valley, Utah, and it's a boarding academy situated on a 300-acre farm. And farming also has been a little passion of mine, you know, from when we were in Paradise and meeting Lynn Hogue and learning all his gardening methods and everything. So when I got to the school, I really just fell in love with the farm and have progressed from the classroom more and more onto the farm and predominantly work on the farm now. So that's just been something that has just been a passion of mine for sure, farming, and it's an amazing place to farm. You know,
I mean, just look at this. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, it looks like something out of a picture because when you come into Castle Valley, it's like you're in desert, and all of a sudden you drop over the hill into this oasis. You see all this greenery and the blue skies and the red rocks. It's really actually this stunningly beautiful place.
Yeah, it's a desert oasis. And, you know, with our food crisis situation on the planet today, you know, with more and more as the farms get larger and we hear about these mergers happening between, you know, biotech companies and drug companies and chemical companies
Monsanto and all that.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, trying to just
GMO food, everything.
take over our entire food supply.
Do you buy a lot, or do you get a lot of like heirloom stuff?
Yeah, so we grow a lot of heirloom.
Is there a risk
varieties.
of, this might be kind of off topic, is there a risk of your gardening getting contaminated by GMO stuff?
It's
or?
actually a beautiful thing about where we're at. We're situated
Awesome.
in the middle of a desert, so there's so much space around us. We could actually grow corn, you know, for seed and not have it contaminated, where that's really hard to do in a lot of places because corn pollen will travel, you know, long distances. So yeah, it's a good spot for it. I mean, there's definitely challenges to the environment where we're farming.
Just too dry. And
But like that's everywhere, you know. I mean, it's very few places that are completely ideal, you know. So, yeah, you know, most of our customers are really local, so our food's not going that far. I mean, we're driving it maybe 20 miles away, you know, kind of a thing.
So you guys are growing food and you're taking it to what? Health food stores, restaurants? What are you doing?
So Moab is 17 miles from us, town of Moab, and there's a little market there, Moonflower Market, that buys most of our produce from us. And then restaurants. We sell a lot to, the town is predominantly hotels and restaurants. So, and that's a means for the school to support itself. It's a self-supporting boarding academy, and the students that come there learn agriculture is one of the first,
So you got
the
some workers
ABCs
and
of
stuff.
education
Yeah.
and, at this school. And so that's what the kids there are learning. They come there and they're told, you can't have your phone, you can't have, you have limited access to a computer. And at first they're like, and I think there's a lot of students that don't come just because of that aspect. But once they get there and they realize, I'm actually fine without my phone.
Yeah,
Right.
like a little detox. Like
Right.
Yeah, like
Right.
a detox.
One thing I want to say is, this is, you have a ministry. Everybody has, what I think is cool is like everybody's so individual and unique. Like he loves gardening. I tried it. I hated it. All the weeding and everything. But he has a passion for it. You have a passion for getting on helicopters and saving people. Not everybody can do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I can stomach half of the stories that he's told about, like a paramedic, what they deal with, especially the flight paramedics. When you're on a helicopter crew, you're picking up the worst of the worst of the worst. I mean, you've had to like walk down freeways and look for limbs that have come off of people before. And so, like, not everyone can do that. I mean, I would literally be sick to my, stomach and probably couldn't perform under those circumstances.
We were
But-
talking about off camera, like that even old ladies and stuff could knit hats and give them to people. Everybody can do something, man.
Yeah, there is literally a ministry opportunity anywhere you are. I mean, Tom, you have a passion for food as well, like you mentioned. So talk about some of these products that you're making. Like, what is this?
So we're in an effort to have zero waste on the farm. We got a freeze dryer donated to us, actually a couple of them, and we've started to freeze dry everything we have an abundance of. So like we had tons of melons that we're not going to sell all these before they go bad. So we start freeze drying them, and you can freeze dry things that you can't normally dehydrate. Like we have a 1 acre asparagus plot. And when it's pumping, I mean, it's like we got asparagus coming out our ears. So we're freezing as much as we can, and you can just fill freezers. And then once you come into winter time, you got a little more time, you can start running stuff through the freeze dryer. And you can't dehydrate asparagus, but you can freeze dry it. You can't dehydrate zucchini, but you can freeze dry it.
Yeah, he makes freeze dried kale salad. I mean, we're talking with the cranberries and the nuts and the kale like salad dressing. When you're eating it, it's like you're eating a whole kale salad, but it's like this yummy snack.
You just
it's
open
amazing.
it up and it's ready to eat. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, his kids were walking around the other day with this little bag of freeze dried grapes.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, let me see that. Give me one of those, And I tried one. It was literally like a piece of candy. I mean, if you have a sweet tooth, this was like literally like eating like cotton candy or something. I mean, that's what it tasted like.
Now, I have heard about this legendary carrot hot dog.
Okay, right here.
I haven't tasted one yet. I
A
want to.
carrot hot dog. He takes these to the farmer's market and literally sells out of these things. So talk a little bit about this.
So it came out of just a conversation I was having with a friend of mine. She had a vegan restaurant in California, and she said her best-selling menu item was a carrot hot dog. And I instantly thought, that sounds disgusting.
Yeah,
Right. I don't like cooked carrots, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I'm like envisioning myself at a vegan restaurant, seeing that on a menu, it'd be the last thing
With
I'd
a carrot
order.
in a bun.
Yeah, just like not happening.
Yeah.
So the next year, she kept talking about it. She said, I'll make you one, So she made me one, and I just had like a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And was completely blown away. And so I came home and just started experimenting and looking up different recipes, and kind of came up with our own little recipe for it. And basically, you're steaming a carrot down and marinating it for 24 to 48 hours in a marinade that makes it end up tasting like a hot dog,
Wow.
And then you put that in a nice homemade bun with, homemade sauerkraut, and we've been making a cashew cauliflower mayo, a turmeric mustard, and an heirloom tomato ketchup.
Wow.
So we're making all the
My
concepts.
mouth is watering,
I
man.
know, dude.
It's like a full artesian, like homemade
Wow.
food item, and it's you're taking one of the worst American foods, the hot dog.
Right.
And I just
love it.
I was like, wow,
Reclaim
this
it.
is a
Yeah.
way to.
How can we
taking it
reinvent
back,
this
man.
and start a ministry
Amen.
like this?
Amen.
And so wait, you've taken this to farmers markets.
Yeah, so we take it to farmers market. We have a carrot little hot dog cart in Moab. Happens on Tuesdays. We just ended. We went all the way to the Tuesday just before Christmas. Was our last market. We shut down, and then we'll open back up into March.
So what kind of people are lining up at your booth here? Are these like hippies? Are these like
It's all types. I mean,
granola eating
we've had-
like?
I had two guys come by the market, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll try one of your hot dogs,"
Uh-oh.
And so like
From New York.
and he's like, I'm like, "What do you want on it?" And he's like, "Whatever you think is good,"
Yeah.
So I put everything, They turned around, they ate like, "Yeah, we'll take another one," Yeah, we'll take another one. These two guys ate 4 of them.
Wow.
And then at the end, he's like, "Man, he's like, we eat hot dogs, on the street, and you would never put, ketchup on a hot dog, it's just mustard, you never put ketchup, but that was really good, and they were just blown away, and that's the response. A lot of people are like, "Wow, how'd you make it taste like a hot dog?" And then we've just recently gotten a couple of these corn dog waffle irons and been making carrot corn dogs as well. So we got hot dogs and corn dogs. So we use this as a means to help pay for the school to go on certain trips. Like the school, we're going as a school, all the students, most of the faculty, to an agriculture conference. And we'll set up this cart at this conference and we'll sell. We're going to make 700 hot dogs for this event. And that helps to pay for our event. And it gives the students opportunity to, serve at a food cart, and learn that whole process and
Business enterprise.
yeah, business enterprise. Like we're looking at building a trailer actually and
Cool.
and going more full time with it as well.
You got to go outside of like baseball stadiums and stuff, man.
Right? Yeah. That would be the true test. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
Like people that are like, they want their ballpark dog, and it's like, what?
It'd be
It's
cool to
carrot?
see that paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Like we was talking about, like people are like, I don't know, just try it. And
Yeah.
then they try it, they're like, whoa.
Yeah,
like,
first
can I have
time's free.
another? Can I have another?
First little sample's free. Everybody they're kind of getting more health conscious. This could really take off, man. I mean, you might have. I just got a little paper in the mail yesterday that said that Hardee's now has a plant-based thing. So a lot of people are. I mean, we got Burger King and Hardee's and
Right.
KFC. Like they're all
Carl's
going
Jr.
plant-based.
Carl's
Right.
Jr. has
Yeah.
one too.
Yeah,
Del Taco.
that Impossible Burger has taken over the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? There's certain people, vegetarian people that I've had conversations with that don't like the Impossible Burger because it tastes like a real
Yeah,
burger.
it's like I know. I felt guilty
You know
eating it. I'm
what I
like,
mean?
what
right,
am I?
right. What's wrong with it? Right.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, I mean, this is somebody who's taken a passion. I like cooking, and you know what? Everybody likes hot dogs, so I'm gonna figure out how to make this thing healthy. And then all of a sudden, taking it to farmers markets. I've had conversations with you. People start asking questions. Why are you into this? Now you got this opportunity to talk to people that you didn't just walk in the room and be like, hey, you should start eating more healthy. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't the first thing. It's just like, I love the idea of making healthy food taste good.
Yeah.
Because that's the real reason why I think most people don't want to be healthy. They don't know what. Yeah, I don't want to eat that because
They feel like they're giving up on something. You know,
right.
it's like their taste buds have been so used to some of the other sugars and high-end, eating that they don't feel like it's going to be satisfying. But
right.
when you taste and see, man, it's good. You
And
know?
a really good reason to be healthy and take care of your body is this is our temple, man. We got to live with this body, and the longer we stay alive and healthy, the longer that we can, bring people into the kingdom. I worked at a hospital. I was just valet. I wasn't like a nurse or anything, but I would see some people in their 70s get out with a walker, and they can barely move, and then I'd see somebody else jump out, and he's like, "How old do you think I am?" I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "I'm 90." I'm like, "Whoa, what?" So I mean, you can see wow. What we do, our health can really depend on that,
And health is not, working with patients in the hospital or in the ambulance or the helicopter. When you lose health, you lose everything.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, it's
all you
like
got.
Nothing else matters.
nothing else matters. But what would somebody do to gain back their health? And most often, it's anything.
Yeah.
Yep. It's actually one of the top things that people talk about when they're dying. There's actually a book that was written where a nurse, she kept having people dying around her, and they kept talking about these like 10 very common things. And, you know, when you lose your health, it makes you really start to think about what's really important in life. Like, you don't care about that BMW. You don't care about that house. You know, people start really prioritizing what was my life really supposed to be about. And so, yeah, health is...
You don't want to wait too late, because then your damage is already being done.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. So you mentioned earlier this little article that talked about NPR. 1 million animal and plant species are at the risk of extinction. I mean, that's where the world is coming to. I mean, they say there's about 8 million plant and animal species on the world, but 1 million, that's 1/8 of the life on the planet is literally in danger of extinction right now. That's where we're at right now.
We're seeing incredible stressors on the planet all over. You know, it's not just related to the animal and plant kingdom. I mean, you know, we see it in the political realm, you know, in society around us in general. I mean, this world is literally bursting at the seams with problems.
Yeah,
and
what are
incredible challenges.
Some of the signs are the love of many growing cold. You know? And
right.
you see people like videotaping people drowning and videotaping fights, and they're not even trying to help. The wars are just going crazy. Natural disasters. I mean, if you look at like a chart of earthquakes and stuff, it's just up.
Yeah.
I mean, more intense, more frequent.
I have that chart.
Right
this,
here.
this is actually a website called Our World in Data, and they track data across the world for natural disasters, and they break it down. Like you can look at just tsunamis, you can look at just earthquakes, you can look at just fires. You can break it all down. But this particular chart here is all natural disasters. What's incredible and undeniable by the science, and you can see it, is that 1900, which we go back and we remember from history, like the Great San Francisco earthquake. I mean, huge. It destroyed the whole city, and a lot of people died in that earthquake. But you kind of had disasters that were a common fluctuating theme most years, and it was pretty steady, 1900s, until all of a sudden you hit like the 1980s. And once you hit the 1980s, it's like the chart just skyrockets. I mean, like we're talking an incredible climb in the amount of disasters, frequency, intensity, damage that they're causing. And then even into the mid 2000s, and we kind of seem like to have this little lull right now. Like 2010 was kind of like a peak where we saw an incredible amount of heavy hitting disasters. We saw Katrina before that. We saw Haiti. We saw the Fukushima, tsunami. If you guys ever watch footage of that, it's nuts.
nuts.
Like little
That was
cars
nuts.
driving on the road and this huge tidal wave just like wiping them out. And
The fires in California.
yeah, fires in
this last
California.
year.
It's unprecedented. It seems like every year we keep coming up against challenges that are something that we have never before seen. Like even when we went to the hurricane in Dorian in the Bahamas, the islanders there, the locals were telling us, we've seen Category 5 storms. And a Category 5 storm is
Destructive.
Is destructive. I mean, you're talking about 200 miles an hour sustained winds.
Yeah. And it just sat over 'em.
And yeah, so 200 miles sustained winds. But they said that's not what was so destructive about the storm. They said what was crazy was that inside that storm, they saw multiple large tornadoes coming down out of the storm and touching down on the ground at the same time. We've never seen that before. We've never seen tornadoes inside a hurricane causing damage like that.
Yeah, and every time you see an article, it's always like the biggest flood in Texas history. It's always like the biggest. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's no longer like news anymore. It's just commonplace that another school shooting. Oh, somebody just yesterday, Sunday, walked into a church and opened fire, and then guys in the church were armed and they opened fire and they killed the gunman. I mean,
Isn't that crazy? The world we live in today, you can die going to church.
Wow.
Like I've been to lots of churches where there's a police officer that sits outside. In fact, around here, they have police officers that sit outside of the churches. And one time I walked over to the officer and I was just like, hey, you gonna come in here? Like, what are you doing? And he said, no. He said, we're out actually protecting the churches, just in case something goes down. And it's like, whoa, that's crazy. That's the world we live in.
Movie
you can die
theaters,
going to church.
churches, you might get shot.
Walmart
Schools,
parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to get involved in ministry, we know the end of the world is right around the corner.
Yeah.
Check out this verse. Revelation 14, verse 8 said, "And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she's made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." So this is where we're at. This is a message for the end of the world, saying, listen, the systems of the world are breaking down.
Right. So this is the second angel's message, right? There's 3 of them. And this is the second angel's message. He's basically declaring that the world systems and everything connected with it are failing. Yeah. And we're seeing that. Like, if you look at politics, people will agree across the board. Doesn't matter what aisle of the party that you sit on, we agree that politics are failing.
Broken.
And it's not just the United States, it's all around the world. I mean, France, incredible upheaval in their political system right now because they can't maintain their course.
Korea.
Yeah, Korea, China, Hong Kong, the protests that are happening in Hong Kong. So, I mean, incredible failure of systems. And it doesn't matter whether you're communist or Democratic or Republican. I mean, we're seeing these things fail. And so people are recognizing we're in a very incredible time period, and it's not just that, but I mean, like you said, the love of many growing cold. I mean, society is breaking down. Yeah. And those norms that used to be there to protect us, we can't count on those anymore.
So what are we supposed to be doing right now? I mean, we're people of God. We're His children. What are we supposed to be doing? Just hunkering down? Should we run to the hills? Like, what do you think like we all need to be doing right now?
I think it's the same as it was in the very beginning. I mean, you look in Genesis chapter 2 where it says the Lord placed man in a garden to teach him about his character. And he gave him 2 tasks. He said, I mean, the Bible says to dress and to keep. But really, if you look at the translation of those 2 words, it's to serve and preserve. We were called to serve and preserve. Serve and preserve. I mean, that's the calling.
Serve and preserve life.
Serve and preserve.
That's awesome.
Serve and preserve,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's our calling.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what Jesus did when he came here,
Yeah.
Wash people's feet.
serve and preserve.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
came to give life and to give it more abundantly.
Yeah. Amen.
it's a life of service is where we're going to find our greatest joy.
And you know what's interesting? Here is really 4 unique ministries. You've got a book ministry, you've got a rescue ministry, we've got a media ministry, you've got a gardening ministry, but yet we're all really seriously on the same, we're all on the same task. Yeah. That's to preserve life, to give them hope, to give them healing. I mean, that's literally what we're doing.
Well, and really, in connection with Revelation 14:8, this really continues on because you see that Revelation continues with this theme to come out of her, my people. So not only is Babylon fallen, but the next step is then to disconnect. Like you've got to disconnect from the world and the systems because it's not sustainable. If we remain plugged into Babylon and her systems in any way, shape, form, or fashion, it's going to take us down. And so God's advice to us in this time is you've got to disconnect, unplug, get out of that system.
Get on the ark. Come out of the city. Don't even look back. It's always been that way.
Right. And so I love that. Like what you guys do here with Little Light, it's like that's that call. It's like disconnect, like realize that this stuff has a profound effect on us. Yeah. And the time is now to unplug, make sure you clear
Even
the
if
way.
it's just to distract you so much that you're wasting all this precious time to reach this harvest that we're talking about. Like, people are reaching a state of hopelessness because everything's failing. Perfect time to reach out and share the gospel. Yeah, and if you're just sitting there staring at a TV for hours, I mean, think of all the people you could have witnessed to.
Yeah.
Right.
Opportunity. And that's what actually excites me the most is that, where God has led us to this point is like, man, there are unprecedented opportunities. In the face of unprecedented challenges are unprecedented opportunities. And I would say the opportunities are even greater because the challenges are so large. Yeah, it's like David. I love the story of David and Goliath, right? It's like everybody else is looking at the scene and the situation. They see a giant who is it's impossible. There's no way that they're going to be able to take on this giant in their own strength. And yet David looks at the situation. He's like, is there not a cause?
Yeah.
Like David saw opportunity where everybody else saw challenge. David said, no, this is an opportunity for God, to gain the credit.
That's right. That's right. Jonathan and his armor bearer. You know what I mean? Like literally, when you read that story, I can't remember. Was it 30,000 people that were there, or maybe it was 3,000?
It was a large host.
It was a large host. And what was with Saul? Basically, everybody that took off, they whittled them down to 300, basically. Yeah. And Jonathan goes out there and he's running ahead of his armor bearer. You know, his armor bearer's slaying people as he's like going by them, and God won this mighty victory for them. So, you know, like what Jonathan said, is it by many or by few? It doesn't matter. Like God's the one in control here, and it doesn't matter. We don't need a large group. We just need willing bodies.
So that's the verse. What is it? The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
That's right.
How's it go?
That's right.
Yeah, and I love that verse because that's what Jesus says in Luke 10:2, right? He says, "Therefore he said unto them, the harvest is truly great, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray to the Lord of the harvest that he would send forth laborers into his harvest." And I think on the ministry, like we're talking about ministry, like everybody has a ministry, and sometimes it's easy to get caught up when you're in a ministry to think, you know, Lord, like we need money, like we need a building, we need, you know, camera equipment, we need, you know, whatever it is. We start listing all these things down, what we think we're lacking in, and yet that's not what Jesus actually asked us to pray for. He actually asked that we pray for people.
There you go.
And that's crazy because people are the greatest asset, right? If you think about some of the greatest movers and shakers in history have always been people, you know, like Saul of Tarsus, man, like he was out there like totally 180 degrees against the church, right? And then through Stephen laying down his life as a witness, he gained a follower of Christ that was one of the greatest apostles that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know, so people are actually the greatest asset, and that's what we should be praying for. Like whoever's out there watching, you know, like is there a Saul? Is there a Paul? Is there a Gideon? Is there a Moses? Is there a David? I mean, these are the individuals that God wants to.
Yeah, and oftentimes, like in David's case, he was the youngest. He was the least likely to be chosen. And you know, when all of them were walking in front of Samuel, I mean, he was like, surely it's this one. This one looks good. He's tall. He's strong. He's whatever. And God was like, nope. It's the shepherd boy out there in the field that I want. You know what I mean? So no matter where you are in your life, no matter what you're doing, I mean, you can even literally support a ministry with your money.
Yep.
That is a form of ministry. I mean, we have people that literally send us donations and things like this, and that's their way of involving themselves in our ministries. And you as well. I mean, when you go on these outings, when people are like, hey, look, I can't go, but I can, you know, I give you a little bit so you can then buy a plane ticket for someone else to go in my stead. That's a ministry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to get involved that maybe you're not that type that can actually physically go there and do that, but you know, you're still part of a ministry.
And like we talked about social media or whatever, I think the internet is a great tool to reach the gospel to the ends of the world. I mean, I saw a preacher on TV saying that he goes to third world countries where they're living in huts, but they all have phones. He said, we watch your ministry on our phone all the time.
Right.
Like this is the time. If the gospel is ever going to reach the entire world, it's now.
Yeah.
Yep. So get involved in ministry. Now is the time. As you can see, I mean, we're just three brothers. We actually have one more brother.
That's right.
And someday he'll be sitting right next to us.
That's right.
You know, we're still working on him, but you know, you have a ministry with your family. I mean, just to simply reach out to them, like that story you shared, Mikey, the testimony of the guy who was like making videos, and his purpose was really to share it with his family. You know, everybody's got a testimony. You may have a testimony of how God brought you into his fold, and just by simply sharing that with other people, that can be a ministry in and of itself. And encouragement. I mean, just encouraging your brethren is a ministry in itself. You know, like we talked about earlier, if you have gratitude, it can actually exponentially change your healing process. You can go to a convalescent home and just, you know, share the blessings, share the promises that God has, and you'll watch these old people's worlds light up, you know? So get involved in ministry. 2020, time to get focused. The end of the world is right here. It's around the corner. And I think when you get to heaven, the thing you're gonna do is you're gonna look back on your life and you're gonna say, what did I do for the kingdom of God? What did I do with my time? What did I do with my energies, my efforts? As you can see, we are all part of very different types of ministries. But you know what? If you start praying, God, just send me. Send me. I'll go. And then, like you said, Brock, send me other people that are also wanting to share in this. You'd be surprised. You may have an accountant, someone who just, all of a sudden, sells houses for a living, and is just like, hey, man, I want to edit video for you. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like you have no idea. Start praying for those people. And I know, our ministry has been blessed over the years of just random people coming by and very different skills. Keith, who's not here today, Keith was a chemist. When he called me up, I was like, well, I don't really do chemistry. But you can work with us, and he had made some websites, and that's literally how Keith started with us.
I came in by making T-shirts.
That's right, Mikey made T-shirts and stuff like that.
So that was something my dream was music and making videos and T-shirts, but it was all for the world.
That's right.
And then I was like, how am I going to use this to glorify God? And then I got involved in this ministry. We make T-shirts. I do videos. It's like God blessed me with the very things that I love doing.
Yeah, that's right. And you brought something to the table, which actually we've all enjoyed having you. Now Mikey's one of our best editors on the on the floor. So, I'm very excited about 2020, where God is gonna bring this year, what we can get involved in. So thanks for watching, guys. Check out our Patreon page if you want to help support our work and continue us forward. Also, check out these guys' websites, GideonRescue.org. Check out the YouTube page, Truth to Your Youth, Castle Valley Farms, Tommy's Tonic. If you are sick, literally, try this product once. You will be a believer. And we hope...
buy that right on our shop, too.
That's right. You can buy it on our shop, littlelightstudios.tv. Thank you once again for watching our videos. And a little small ministry, you can share our videos with your friends and family. There can be a ministry right there for you. Thanks so much. We love you guys. Have a great year this year, 2020. We'll see you next Friday.